Hello, my name is Terry and welcome to my kitchen. My husband Alan and I live on Vancouver Island in Colwood, which is a small city just outside of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Last week we did our first ever video of our garden, which led to questions as to whether we were going to do any on cooking. We hadn't really planned on it, but since it was suggested that some of you would like to see how I make my ultimate chocolate chip cookies, bumbleberry jam, our almond roca, and salsa that we make every fall. Unfortunately, we didn't this year because Bernardin is all out of lids, and so we're waiting for those to arrive, and so everything's frozen in the freezer. But anyway, just to name a few things that you're interested in watching me make, and Alan with his help. So, and because of COVID, you can't come over and stand around and watch. So we're gonna do it this way. Besides, hey Google, what's the temperature in Victoria?
In Victoria, it's currently 7 degrees.
There you go. So the temperature in Colwood today is only 7, and you know, I don't usually get out and work in the garden until it hits 10. So I'm in the house and baking cookies that apparently we're all out of in the freezer, and the grandchildren are needing, and my husband Alan as well. So here, let's get started. Oh, there it is. Okay. There isn't much that I make that I don't use my grandmother's old grip stand baking dish with, because I usually always at least double everything. And I've had this for about 40 years maybe. I haven't managed to break it, so let's make sure that we don't do that today. Okay, I'm just going to mix up. I'm just creaming the sugars that I cheated and mixed the brown sugar and the white together. And I'm dumping into the creamed margarine mixture. So I'll beat that for a few minutes, and then I'm going to start adding the eggs, which are, I'll show you in a minute, actually come from my daughter-in-law, Shauna's chickens. So we'll beat these up and we'll be back in a minute. So here we have an assortment of eggs from her chickens that are lovely different colors. And I'm just going to slowly beat those in a couple at a time. And then I'm going to be adding vanilla, which luckily it's pure vanilla. And I managed to pick up when we're in Mexico for much cheaper than we can get it here. But good thing I stocked up, because we won't be going down for the next year or two. So vanilla is next, and we'll beat that in, and then I'll be back. One thing I was going to mention, that personally, I like to get the margarine softened in a bowl the night before. I put it in, and I also mix together the dry ingredients in a bowl, and the walnuts and the cranberries and the chocolate chips as well. And then I get a better start on it quicker for the next day. I also take the eggs out in the morning, at least an hour before I start baking, so they get to room temperature. Okay, so far we have 2 cups of softened margarine in here, 2 cups of packed brown sugar, 1 cup of white sugar, 4 eggs, 5 if they weren't as large, if they were kind of a medium to smaller egg. I put in 5, I always seem to. 3 teaspoons of vanilla, and now we're going to add what I really think is my secret ingredient, the grated rind of 1 large orange. Now, I don't actually have a navel orange right now, so I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to use a couple of the oranges that I still had left over, Christmas oranges. And we also grow lemons in our greenhouse, And I think one time if I'm ever stuck and don't have an orange, maybe I'll cheat and grate in a lemon. Actually, I zest them with a zester that my brother Gordon had bought me a number of years ago from Lee Valley Tools. And I don't know how I ever survived without that zester, but we'll show you that in just a minute. Okay? Here we go with this lovely zester. Works quite lovely. I actually cheated. I had a lemon in there, so I'm using an orange and a lemon. But maybe I'd like some more, so I'm going to run down and get another. Okay, here we are back here with this handy dandy citrus zester. And I was going to use 2 Christmas oranges, but I've discovered that their skins are they're softer peel than the actual navel oranges. So I'm actually going to use 2 of them and then cheat and use one of my lemons that I had left over in the fridge without having to run out to the greenhouse. So this zester, like I said, best thing I ever had gotten. And I'll just give you a peek of what's inside here. You can see both of the lemon color and the orange. So it'll be kind of interesting. And we'll see how that goes, okay? So I'll just finish up this and add it to that, and then we'll be back again. Okay, now I'm gonna start slowly adding the flour and mixing that in. So you really don't want to hear this beater going, so we'll do that while you're not listening. Okay, next half of the flour, shaking that all in, and I'm just gonna finish mixing this all up, and then we'll be back. I'm gonna recap what I have in here so far. So we have the 2 cups of the softened margarine, 2 cups of packed brown sugar, and a cup of white sugar, all creamed together in there. And then I added, actually, it calls for 4 eggs, but I added 5 because they weren't superly large. 3 teaspoons of vanilla, and the grated rind, not of 1 orange, actually, of 2 Christmas oranges and a lemon. So we'll see how that turns out. I think it'll be just fine. It's a citrus. Then I've added the dry ingredients, which were already mixed together, which was 4 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt. And now we have that all mixed together. And I'm gonna add next 4 cups of the semi-sweet chocolate chips, 2 cups of either raisins or cranberries, or if you wanted a cup of raisins and a cup of cranberries. Some of the grandkids don't like raisins, so unless I sneak them in and they don't notice. But cranberries they're okay with. So it's got 2 cups of cranberries going in and 2 cups of the chopped walnuts. Okay, so I'm going to do that next and start mixing it up, and be very careful because I make such large batches, and sometimes I have been known to bust mixers, so I'll take it easy, okay? Okay, I'm back. That's all mixed together now. Lovely. Makes quite a big bowlful. I'm going to turn on my ovens. I don't usually do it much earlier than about now because why have them sitting on, wasting electricity for an hour? And, you know, I guess it makes it sound like retired BC Hydro people, but either that or I'm really cheap. Probably a little bit of both. Anyway, my pans are all ready to be loaded. Dry cooling racks are out. I'm going to get busy and start putting those on, and we'll come back and show you what they look like before they go in the oven and then after they come out. Okay, perfect timing. My oven's just dinged, and I have my first 2 trays of cookies ready to get in there in the ovens. Did I mention I have 2 ovens? I don't know how I survived before we expanded this kitchen when I only had 1 oven and 4 children. Oh, there goes the second oven. It's always a little bit later than the first. Anyway, yes, 2 ovens. It's a glorious thing, and I couldn't live without 2 ovens. And everything moves fast now because I'm doing 2 at a time. So we'll put those in and we'll see. Okay, one thing I was just going to mention is I never put more than 12 on a cookie sheet because I really like them to come out nice and round and individual rather than all melting together and having to cut them with a spatula. So anyway, there's 12 on a sheet. It's easier for me to count too, a dozen at a time. And I leave them in, 11 minutes seems to work for me. So I look in there, and if they look brown around the edges, but they still look a little speck soft in the middle, not too soft, but enough that when you take them out and they sit for a few minutes, they finish cooking, and then they're just perfect and they're not overcooked. So don't overcook them because that's really dried out cookies. No, nobody would like those. Okay, there it goes. Okay, oven number 1 is ready. And don't those look just lovely? Yes, sirree. Those look great. I'm going to put them over here to cool. And I'm going to go to oven number 2. Yes, sirree. Another lovely batch, all done. And now, just to give myself a spec, I'm going to cancel the timers. Cancel. To cancel. Always. There we go. Okay, so while those are just cooling for a minute, I'm going to put in a couple of more batches. First of all, in oven number 1, and get my timer, number 1, on for 11 minutes. And then I'm going to put these ones into oven number 2 and timer 2 for another 11 minutes. Okay, all right. Now I'm gonna just let these cool for a spec and then start taking them on and putting them on the cooling racks, okay? Okay, here we are back so far, and we're at 6 dozen. So we have 2 more dozen in the ovens, and at least another dozen to still be made up over there in the bowl. So we'll see how many we get at the end. So, okay, we're back. Made about 9.5 dozen, which is a good amount. I said 8 to 10, depends how big you make them, but it did make 9.5. Took on average about 11 minutes every time. And then just watch that towards the end, the oven gets a little bit warmer. It tends to take less, maybe 10 minutes. But anyway, they'll be cool soon. And I'll bag some up and put them in the freezer and bag some up to send home with our son Chris for Shauna, because thank you very much for the eggs. They're lovely. And that's about it. For now, you guys take care and stay safe. And one other little thing that I want to point out to you, something kind of fun that Grandpa deals with the little grandchildren, that keeps the toddlers very entertained. Especially when they're here. They have them at home too, but this one is the one we kept at our house. Thing becomes a little addicting. It actually is pretty loud. We actually have some tape over the speaker, so it's not as loud as it could normally be. Otherwise, you can't even hardly hear yourself think when the thing's going. But the tape works great. Anyways, you guys take care and stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.